Anyway, so Nate here from East Eddy Ranch, and I got Mr. Ben Lowrey from you're over in the UK,
Yeah,
huh? Yeah,
yeah.
and this dude is a pretty amazing, creditor, sovereignty, freeman on the land researcher, for lack of a better term. Um, Ben, you want to just tell us like your perspective on the, whatever this greater movement of information is. I mean, how do you describe it?
Well, I really like to look at it in simple terms. I mean, it's just basic. We're all born equal. Nobody owns anybody else. And if some, and the only way somebody can acquire the right to tell somebody else what to do is with that other person's consent. It's like
Hmm.
simple as that kind of thing. So for me, that's really the crux of it. It's as simple as that, and then everything else just stems from that. And so
Hmm.
I really like, Gordon Hall teaches that everything's a contract, everything's by consent, everything's a contract, and I really subscribe to that. Contract in the widest sense of the word. All human interaction is the constant making and fulfillment of contracts kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man. I have to say Gordon Hall's stuff has definitely been resonating with me, and I found out about it because of checking your channel out, and then I sent you an email, and you said, "Hey, dude, here's some Gordon Hall stuff. Check this stuff out." And so, yeah, man, I was really thankful for that, and I find his, his approach and just perspective to be really, it's refreshing. I really appreciate, this spiritual and philosophical, flavor that he brings to his methodology, and just really calm and kind of getting away from a lot of what we see, and just for lack of a better term, like the angry patriots that are
Yeah.
trying to do this stuff.
Well, I think we're most powerful. We give ourselves the most power when we take responsibility, you know?
Yeah.
So we're really, if we're going to go around blaming the government and saying they're committing fraud and the banks are fraudulent and they got no right to do this and we need to take our power back and they're wrong and yada yada yada, we're just giving away our power because we're putting them at the cause and we're stopping ourselves. Do you see what I mean? So I
Yeah,
really,
totally.
yeah, that's why I really like not just Gordon but Brandon Adams and the Creditors and Commerce bunch. Their general attitude is, ladies and gentlemen, the government does it right. We it's just us that hasn't learned properly yet how to to interact with the world yet. We put ourselves at the cause.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, man. I mean, I I think that so many people want to have some way to not comply with the
Mm,
government. I mean, people talk about peaceful non-compliance and resistance, or whatever,
mm,
from the New World Order, from whatever. We all know that, like, the cards are stacked against us. However you want to look at it, like whether the government does it right all the time and we just don't know how to interface with them,
mm.
or the government is stepping on our rights. um, people don't. A lot of people want to do something, but they don't really have the knowledge of how to practically apply this sort of knowledge, or to what to do to stand up for themselves.
Sure, exactly. And it's kind of frustrating. Like there's so many of us in this movement, we know that we don't want to be told what to do by the government. We know we don't want to support wars and bombing people all over the world and that type of thing. But it's very difficult to figure out actually how to implement it, and how to
Hmm.
how to work the courts. It's very difficult. There's certain there's a certain level of knowledge and practical understanding that I think we can only obtain just by studying, or something. I don't know if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, okay. So, what do you? I mean, what's your perspective on, where whatever this movement is, whatever we want to call it, where
Yeah.
it's at today, in comparison to, maybe where it's been at in years past? I don't know how long you've really been, looking into this sort of information,
Yeah.
but it seems like things are getting, kind of to a point where it's more accessible than it ever has been before.
Of course.
There's more information out there. There's more people having success than ever before. It is what it seems like to me.
Well, the way I look at it is this, that the world is a completely different place since high-speed internet, just over the last 10 years, right? If you go back before high-speed internet, it's very difficult to find information about anything. You got to wait for a documentary to come on the telly, or you got to go and buy a magazine, or you got to go to the library, or you got to go and meet up with a group of people, and it just like takes forever to learn anything. And now the world's a completely different place. Like all the information and everything that's going on in the world is immediately available. And with Facebook and YouTube, everybody on the planet is sharing all this
Hmm.
interesting information. So like before high speed internet, we would have never seen a Robert Menard video or a Dean Clifford video. We would just never
Yeah.
have come across it, right? But nowadays, it's like that. It's just happening so quick. And it's like exponential. The more people see it, the more people get into it, and then the more people that are experimenting, and then there's more people going to court, and then telling everybody else what happened, and it's just like exploding.
Hmm. Yeah. And I find that really encouraging, man, because it seems to me that this could be a pretty big game changer if more and more people started to implement this on kind of a whatever maybe not necessarily a mainstream level, but if it reaches kind of a critical mass of enough folks that are in the know, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of exciting. It's like I don't feel like we're not quite there yet. There's not many of us really getting success. As a community overall, the free man sovereign community, we haven't quite figured it out yet. But it's like we're so close. We're
Hmm.
experimenting like mad, and we're desperate to get the answer, but we're not quite. We just haven't got it down yet. Not quite. So we're right there.
It just seems like there's so many people that are just like totally fed up
Yeah.
and are just like, fuck it. You know what? I don't I got nothing to lose. And it's not that you would do that in necessarily in an irresponsible manner. I'm not saying like to just go out and do this stuff to get over and like, you know, whatever, fuck anybody over. Like I would hope that people that are doing this, are coming to it with, some, spiritual, philosophical, come from
Mm.
that's going to assist them in this process because when you start to do it, it's definitely going to be stressful. You're going to be challenged, and if you don't have that to help balance you, it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a good point. I think a balanced perspective on it all is very important. The government's not all bad. The system. There's many great things about the system. So I think it's wise to have a balanced perspective on it all. Because if we overturned the government and got rid of this awful oppressive democracy and all that type of thing that so many people want, we'd have a whole bunch of new problems on our hands. The world wouldn't be any better. We'd just trade old problems for new problems. That's the way I look at it. So uh,
Mhm.
now not everyone will agree with that, but that's the way I see it anyway.
uh So, dude, I mean, how long have you been doing this? Like, what sparked the interest? What was the catalyst for you to head down this line of study?
Well, I ran across. By the way, I haven't been into this very long, only a couple of years, maybe 2.5 years. I think it was round
Mm,
about the start of 2009 that I. It's like it was one of those fateful moments, like a moment of fate. I was walking out of a bar one night and I
mhm,
bumped into a buddy that I hadn't seen for ages, and he said, I said, what you been up to, Colin? And he said, oh. Free man on the land, and I never heard of that, right? And he gave
mhm.
me a link to have you heard of John Harris here in England? At the
Yeah, I've heard of him. I'm not really familiar with, his info or whatever, but
yeah, I forgot the name of the website. TPUC. right? And John Harris is I kind of think of him as like the British Robert Menard kind of thing,
Okay.
if you know
Okay.
what I mean. And he had some videos on Google and on YouTube, the same as Rob Menard did, that that were really popular. A lot of people viewed it and kind of thing. And that was my first, and once you first come across the idea that there's a difference between law and statute, and you don't have to do as you're told, and you don't have to do all these things, and there might be a way out of this kind of mess. It's quite
Yeah.
exciting, isn't it? And so,
Yeah.
and then I came across my sister was working for me at the time as my assistant. I employed her. I said, Holly, I don't care what you do, find more stuff on this stuff. Watch this John Harris video and get on the internet and figure out and find more stuff. And anyway, after like a couple of hours of searching, she found Rob Menard videos, and I was like, perfect. And then from that, I
Mm.
discovered Winston. But to be honest, completely honest with you, Nate, I haven't done much stuff. I haven't really got a lot of practical experience with this stuff. I haven't really got any success stories, which is the reason why I interview a lot of people, because I haven't got much knowledge and experience of my own, but instead of that, I interview other people that have got knowledge and experience, and so my aim is to help, spread the knowledge with the interviews, and then
Yeah.
and then from time to time, as and when I do, get my own legitimate success stories to tell, then I'll be able to present them in due course when they eventually happen, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, it's awesome, and I mean, that's why I wanted to, to do this and kind of flip the tables on you and interview you, because you've had the opportunity to speak to just so many different heads that are doing this,
Yeah.
and and kind of focusing on a lot of folks that seem to be, they're kind of like lesser names. They're not as huge as Winston Shroud or, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and it seems like there's a lot of young people that are doing this stuff as well and starting to get a handle on it.
Sure, that's exactly it. And just going back to the interview thing, I'm so passionate about interviewing people because I think of it as like a cross-pollination of information, right?
Yeah.
Like if I interview somebody like whoever, Alfred Adask or Dean Clifford or Brandon Adams or whoever, and then I know that hundreds of people are going to watch that, and it's going to inspire, loads of people. And then I know those people are going to go away and try it with their own court cases. And then I know those people are going to come back and tell everybody what happened. And so for me, the interviews are so important because for me it feels like it just cross pollinates the information and pushes the whole frontier forward. I'm just kind of trying to do my bit to push the thing forward.
Awesome, man. Yeah, well, yeah, I think it's super beneficial. I know I've learned some. I've been inspired certainly by checking out a bunch of your interviews. So that's awesome, man.
Cool.
Okay, so like you were talking with Kurt in one of your recent interviews with Kurt Flowers about about don't be a sovereign whore and like just start researching everybody and mixing together all this shit without really understanding how the methodology works.
Yeah.
Would you care to comment on that, again, or just kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, I don't exactly agree with Kurt on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can understand his point, and I was interviewing him, so I was just letting him make his point. Really, I wasn't gonna.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
But no, I don't exactly agree with Kurt. I mean, I can see what he was trying to say. It's like don't skip from, don't begin one thing and then start another thing and then mix up all different. I can see the wisdom in the point he was trying to make, but I don't exactly agree. I actually like learning from loads of different sources and hearing
Well,
loads of different
mm-hmm.
things. So that's my view. Yeah, I disagree with Kurt.
I Yeah, I mean, I could kind of see it from a middle perspective.
Sure.
Like, if you just start mixing a bunch of stuff together without really knowing, how it works and what the combination that you're mixing is going to bring about,
Right.
I can see how that could be kind of problematic. You could get yourself into trouble. But at the same time, like, viewing multiple perspectives helps us come to a better, fuller understanding to decide how we are going to apply it and how we're going to proceed with whatever we're doing for,
Yeah.
for our own situation. Um, and, obviously, yeah, there was kind of a contradiction within that because it seems to be kind of what you specialize in is just like getting all the different perspectives and techniques of how people are approaching this information.
Yeah.
Um, and I was laughing last night. I really appreciated the new video you put up. You're talking about people saying, "My method is the only way." Like you
Yeah.
can't do it like that. It has to be this way. And dude, I've noticed that as well, and it does. It just strikes me as bizarre, like because it seems pretty obvious. Like, dude, there's not just one way to do anything.
Mm.
There's multiple ways, and obviously it looks like, people are having success with this method, having success with that method. So, it does seem that there is a little bit of room for synthesis, for
Sure.
evolution.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right. There's both. There's wisdom in both. There's wisdom in both kind of thing. Like two. Yeah. But I think that Kurt did make a good point because if you do, there are some people that they give it a go, but they don't finish what they're doing, and then they turn around and say, "Oh, that didn't work. Winston Shrout's wrong. His method doesn't work." And it's like, no, Winston Shrout's not wrong. You didn't make it work, is the truth, kind of thing. And then they go on to another method, and then they don't finish that. So yeah, it's kind of yeah. There's wisdom in both, isn't there?
So basically, like, don't half-ass it. Like, if you're
Yeah,
doing it, you gotta go for it.
yeah, exactly. And don't blame, you can't blame the guru. If you're gonna do it, we've all got to take responsibility for if we're gonna try something. And if it doesn't work, it's down to us, But yeah, but some people don't want to take responsibility, They want to blame Winston, because the IRS is suing them or something. It's not Winston's fault. It's like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, so it's funny.
Dude, after speaking to all these different heads in this community, I mean, is there like a general theme that emerges, or like something that stands out to you that you see everyone is kind of implementing to make them successful?
Well, the stuff that I've come across that I really like, that I'm really into, is the Bill Thornton methodology of learning how to sue them, right? How to sue your opponent.
Hmm.
Now, the, you know, um, hang on, how can I put this? Basically, this is what me and Dean were saying last night. Dean Clifford. I don't know if you saw. Did you see that one where I spoke to?
Man, I got caught up with some other stuff last night. I didn't
Right.
get to finish that. I look forward to watching it though.
Yeah, I think as a community, the free man sovereign movement, I don't think we're suing people enough, right? If someone's made a mistake, if a government official has acted incorrectly and caused you a problem, sue them. And I've been saying this now for 6 months, and no one seems to. I feel like I'm speaking to myself. No one seems to enforcing things seems to be where everybody falls short. Like everybody knows how to write a notice and write a fee schedule and send them a notice, and everyone starts off with good intentions of putting a lien on them, but nobody seems to get as far as enforcing it, kind of thing. And I think that's where we need to move things forward and start enforcing things and suing them and complaining and holding them to account for what they've done wrong,
Sure.
kind of thing. Yeah, yeah.
That's a little bit more advanced though.
Yeah, I guess it is. I guess it is. Yeah, that's right. I guess you got to. I guess you got to. Well, as you know, Nate, you've probably seen some of my videos where I've been really frustrated with people telling me to send them a notice.
Yeah, yeah,
You've seen,
yeah. So
you know,
helpful with that.
there's me saying, where do these notices end? Where do we actually enforce this thing? And everybody's just saying, well, send them another notice. Notice them that you. Ugh, it frustrates me. So yeah, I think we need to be suing people.
Mm. Yeah, man. I mean, basically, you could you could do that in like almost any situation where, the government's trying to come in and presume that they have jurisdiction over you and do, whatever. Like I mean, like people that are like you've seen people that are like working at a co-op selling raw milk, and the government's coming in with guns drawn and shit and closing people down that are doing stuff like that. And everyone's just going, oh my God, the Patriot Act, they can come in, they can just do whatever they want. There's no way to stand up to them. You got to watch out for them. I mean, with this sort of information in mind, like, is that even really true? I mean, if you knew how to properly respond, you could probably respond to like almost any situation.
Yeah, sure. I mean, according to my understanding, and this is not from experience, I'm just repeating what I've heard, but something like the Patriot Act applies to citizens, which are under the government, and citizens are subject to all the acts and statutes and all the rest of it. But do they apply to one of the people? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so, and by the way, don't ever physically resist. I don't see the point in
Oh yeah.
ever physically resisting the police. If you're at the point where they're there and they're trying to arrest you and they're trying to put handcuffs on you or they got a gun in your face, just let them do it and sue them afterwards. Don't physically resist because it's just ridiculous, because you're not going to win, are you? So I think people make a big mistake. I mean, obviously it is it is very stressful and unpleasant being arrested, especially the first time. So I can understand, people's distress, but there's some videos I see on YouTube where they're screaming and yelling and arguing and fighting, and it's just not going to help. Just let them take you and sue them afterwards. That's my attitude.
Yeah, you're gonna create more problems for yourself. It makes sense to me. Like I've heard Gordon talking about, like if it looked like you were in the situation where you were being threatened with physical violence, you would ask that question. Are you physically threatening me? If you got a yes, then okay, well, I'll do whatever you need me to do. Put me in the handcuffs, walk over here, do whatever. It's under duress and
Sure.
protest. It's not with my consent, but I'm not going to resist you.
Yeah. Exactly. I've only been arrested twice, right? And both times there was no physical thing about it. It's just like when it gets to the point where they're gonna put handcuffs on you, just let them do it. You're just gonna cause more problems if you start, because it's too late at that point, right? They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. Just let them do it. Um, by the way, that just reminds me of something. Did you see the YouTube video where there's a guy that pulls up at the border control and he's in a truck and there's a border control woman comes up to his window? Did you see that?
No, no. What happened?
I think he did a really great job.
Uh-huh.
Because she's you know what these government officials and police are like. They like to they bluff and they blag and they bullshit and they put on this
Sure.
persona that they've got authority over you. And she says, "Can you pull over there, sir?" And he says to her, "Am I being detained?" And she's like, "I need you to pull over." He's like, "Am I being detained?" And she's like, "No, you're not being detained." And he says, "Well, I'm free to go then." She's like, "No, I need you to pull over." And he's like, "Am I being detained?" "No, you're not being detained." "Well, I'm free to go then." And, and he just stuck to the point.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
stuck to that point. And I saw Charlie Veach. Do you know Charlie Veach?
Yeah, dude, I love Charlie Beach's
Yeah,
shit, man.
yeah.
It's hilarious and inspiring.
Yeah, sure, me too. I know there's been a bit of controversy recently with the 9/11 thing, but I don't care about that. It, it, it doesn't bother me, So, but anyway, back to the point. I saw him do exactly the same thing. It was a class act. He did a great job. The policeman was doing the same thing. He was saying, "Look, can you come over here, sir? I need to question you." And Charlie Veach said, "Am I under arrest?" And the guy's like, "No." "Well,
Yeah.
I'm free to go then." "Well, can you come over here? I need to question you, sir." "Am I under arrest?" "No, you're not under arrest." "Well, I'm free to go then." "Yes, you're free to go." And that's just great, just that we could all take a lesson from that, because if the cops are hassling you in the street, for example, because they'll question you and they've got a way of questioning you that makes it sound like you've done something wrong, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
and so yeah, I really took something from those examples. That's a great, it's a great little lesson to that one.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, I think it's it's probably good to to view that and even play with some of your friends. Like I've really gotten a kick out of some of your verbal contracting videos. It's a great skill to start to play with, man. I sure hope that I don't have to use it, but like in the event that you're in a situation where you do, it's nice to have some of those tools under your belt, you know?
Yeah, sure. And you know what's great? You know what I really love about this community and like like this conversation we're having now and all the all the conversation online about the sovereignty stuff. It's like in normal life it would be embarrassing to have a court case or it would be embarrassing to be arrested or go to prison. And then but in this community it's the opposite. We're kind of bragging about it and telling stories and like it's great because we're in this community. We're not afraid of these things. We're not afraid of the government. We're not afraid of court cases or police. Like in this world, it's just another opportunity to practice. Exercising our rights, kind of thing. It's like one big game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important to be able to get there in your consciousness or in your perception that you can view it like that. Like you said, it's an opportunity. It is. It's an opportunity for growth, man. It's an opportunity for more practice. It's an opportunity for you to come to a greater understanding. And yeah, man, I mean, that really resonates with me because I see a lot of folks that are like they're kind of starting to look at this information, but they're still really, whether they realize it or not, have a lot of fear about implementing it and like, oh man, how could I do that? I don't know if I feel comfortable with that, and that's fine. Everybody has their own comfort levels and ways that they might navigate these sorts of situations.
Yeah, sure. And also, it's different if you've got kids and a house and stuff. It depends on your situation because, you've got kids, right?
I don't have any kids, no.
Oh, right. Okay. I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of easy. I'm in a situation. I got nobody depending on me, kind of thing,
Mm.
and I've deliberately set up my finances so I've got no assets in my name, right? Deliberately.
Hmm.
So I got nothing to lose. I got no kids, no wife. So if I spend a couple of weeks in jail or something, I can afford to kind of take that risk where it is different for somebody with a family and a house. It depends on everybody's situation. And also, I'd like to say, I've seen anybody that's got assets such as money and property, etc., etc., should be very, very careful
Hmm.
on learning from other people that have got nothing to lose because I've seen this happen. There's people that have got stuff, have learned information from free men that have got nothing, and the free men
Hmm.
don't see any reason why anybody should have anything, right? And then if you start, you can end up in a situation where you're going to lose your assets because you took the advice of somebody who's got nothing to lose. You see what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Like, oh, here, well, yeah. So I guess it behooves us to, just be careful with that when we're
Yeah.
not pushing our own programs too much onto other folks.
Yeah,
You know.
everybody's got different circumstances, and so I think there's a different way of doing things. That's why I really like Gordon Hall because he went to prison for like 9 years or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
And back in the day, he was like super, super rich, like mega, mega big time, millions of dollars, like really rich man. So, and so I kind of like that because in his philosophy, I think he respects, asset protection and he understands that type of thing as well. So,
Hmm.
so I think he accommodates that in his way of thinking, which some of the more free men don't.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
So, what sort of advice would you have for other folks that are like really fresh? I mean, and I feel like I'm pretty, I haven't been looking at this for very long either. But just folks that are fresh to this, man. What sort of advice would you have?
Well, yeah. I don't know if I'm qualified to give advice, but I'll answer your question anyway. And that is, I honestly feel that I ignore 90% of the nonsense that goes on online. And
Hmm.
really, I'd say to anyone, just stick to your own instinct about what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, because there's a heck of a lot of conversation online. There's
Mhm.
just people talking crap. And so I definitely say to anyone, trust your own gut instinct about what makes sense and what doesn't, and learn from the people that instinctively are talking sense. Because sometimes people say things to me, and I think that just doesn't make sense. Someone the other day was trying to tell me that you can appoint anyone as a trustee and they have to do it. And I said, that doesn't make sense. That's nonsense. That's ridiculous. No, it is true. They said that's a principle of trust law. And it must be bollocks. Because if that's true, then anybody could just appoint anyone to do anything, and they wouldn't be able to get out of it. They'd have to do it. Well, that's crap. It's not true. So, there's a lot of nonsense on the internet. So really trust your own instincts and find people to learn from that resonate with with you. That's my comment on that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you, man. That makes sense.
yeah,
Um, so, okay, the statement that you just made though about, making anybody a trustee, um, I've been kind of trying to wrap my head around this. Like, Dean has his little triangle graph
yeah,
about basically us being the beneficiary or whatever the name, your all capital letters name. That's the beneficiary. You could make whoever you want, yourself or someone else that you trust, be that director. And then that leaves, whatever, the governmental authority people to there's only one position left, that they would be, the employee or trustee sort of position. Um, Now, when like people are talking about being like an executive or executor trustee, like I think that's like what Kurt is talking about. Like is that basically synonymous with like being the director?
well, quite honestly, I don't really understand those. I don't really understand that side of things exactly. So I'm not really a good person to comment on that type of thing. I understand it at a superficial level,
Hmm.
whereby um, government employees are already in a sort of certain position as a trustee. They've got a duty to the people, kind of thing. But to be honest, Nate, I don't know enough about trust structure to really comment on it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna ask Dean about that one.
sure, yeah,
Yeah, huh?
yeah.
Interesting, man.
Um,
Um,
actually, actually, while I'm on a roll, bitching and moaning and griping, I'll give you an example of a couple of.
okay,
I'll give you an example of a couple of things which everybody seems to take for granted and everybody seems to believe, but they just don't make sense to me, right? And
sure.
and that is that the birth certificate is traded on the stock market. I
Yeah, I've heard you talk about this a little bit.
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. I've heard people's explanations. The explanations don't make sense. I question people on it. I quiz people on it. Nobody able to explain it. There's like logical fallacies. They jump from one conclusion to another, and it leaps of logic. And I am not convinced the birth certificate is a bond or is traded on the stock market. It just doesn't add up to me. Now, I'm open to be proved wrong. Maybe someone can explain it, but I don't think so. I think people are just it's just nonsense.
But you can still do stuff with the birth certificate, and I know that there's different perspectives on some people would use it and do a UCC filing. Other people would just say that's you don't even need to do that.
Yeah.
Um, like okay, let's talk about that for a second. I mean, what's your perspective on that? Have you done that when you've done an A for V? Have you set anything up in advance with the birth certificate or have you just gone ahead and just done the A for V?
Well, I've never done a successful A for V. I have done an A for V, and
Hmm.
it did appear to work, but I'm not convinced it actually, in the truest sense, where the Treasury sent the credit to the bill issuer. I don't think that happened. I think the debt collector just gave up and struck it off their books, as a bad debt, and I think they just gave up. So I'm not really experienced I've never made an A for V work, and I think over there in the States, I think you guys, it seems to work for you guys over there. You know, when you guys send it to the Treasury or whatever, it actually seems to work. Like the Treasury or the IRS or whatever it is actually sends the money to where it needs to go, right?
Hmm.
Like it actually works. Here in England, we don't seem to have figured out where to send it. I don't know anyone here that's actually done an A for V and it's worked. Uh, so
Hmm.
so I think there's a slight difference between we don't seem to have figured it out here yet. But here's what happens though. People send an A for V here in England, and then what happens is what I just said. The debt collector gives up and goes away and writes the debt off. But then the person's convinced the A for V worked, and I don't think the A for V worked. I think the debt collector just gave up and went away. You know?
Hmm.
See what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what about going back to the last thing you were talking about? About how you don't think that it really is true that the birth certificates are being traded on the stock market and somebody's making, millions off of you behind your back. I heard you had kind of an analogy about the gym.
Yeah.
Could you explain that again?
Yeah, sure. Well, I I think a lot of people in this movement that talk about the birth certificate bond I don't think they've got a basic understanding about how the bond markets work. It's very simple, you know. Um, the government borrows money from the open market, and the loan agreement is in the form of a certificate, which is called a bond. That's all it is. It's a loan agreement. And then, if an investor the bond market assesses the credibility of the government, the United States of America, and that's based on how much tax and income the government is bringing in. And you see what I mean? Now, I don't see where the birth certificate could possibly be traded within that. It doesn't produce any income. Sorry, I've kind of gone off track from what you asked me. What did you actually ask?
Well, you're getting there.
Yeah,
I don't think you've gone off track. Um, yeah, I just wanted you to kind of go over the, the analogy that you had about somebody buying a gym or
yeah,
whatever, and and the members and how that kind of correlated to,
yeah.
the birth certificates being, um, a,
Like a
a
membership card.
bet on the tax that's going to be created in the future.
Yeah, sure. Like, from my perspective, in my opinion, the birth certificate is nothing special. It's just a receipt. When the parents register the kid with the government, they just send you a receipt. It's a birth certificate. That's it. Nothing more to it, kind of thing. And the
Mm-hmm.
analogy is like a gym membership card. If you join a gymnasium, they give you a membership card, and it just represents the fact that you're a member. That's it. There's nothing special about it. Now, the analogy with the investors was if you wanted to buy shares in a gymnasium, if you wanted to invest and buy 50% of the business, right? You're going to look at the financial health of that business. You're going to go to the boss and say, how much money are you bringing in? How much money is this gym making? How many members have you got? How much are they paying? Show me the bank account. Show me the bank statements. I want to see the monthly income. And it's exactly the same with the government. The bond market is the same. The bond market is basically buying a share of the government, basically speaking. And they
Mm-hmm.
want to look at it in the same way. How much tax is coming in? Are we going to get a return on our money? Are you going to be able to pay us a dividend? Kind of thing. Now, I think the analogy I made was, uh, if an investor bought 50% of the gym, I can't exactly remember the analogy I made, but that would be, what I hear people saying is they've sold us on the stock market. They've sold us on the open market. They're trading you on the stock market. And it's ridiculous. That's like a gym member showing up at the gym and saying, "You sold me on the stock market." And it's like, no, we didn't. We just sold shares in the business. We didn't sell you on the stock market. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. Just because the gym boss sold 50% of the shares to an investor, he didn't sell the members on the stock. It doesn't make sense. It's nonsense. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot of misconceptions
yeah,
out there about what is actually the case.
yeah,
Um,
and then that's like the gym member demanding their share of the money. And it's like, no, you don't get the money. You're just a member, kind of thing, right? Because right, because sovereigns want to kind of think they're entitled to a share of the money, but I just don't see it that way. I don't see it as any of our business. You see?
so, but I mean, what do you think about? So there's basically though, however you want to describe it.
Hmm.
Some people describe it as a trust. Some people describe it as, like a ghost account. There seems to be there is an account of credit for everyone that we could draw off of if we knew that it existed and we claim it.
Well,
In whatever way, shape, or form that you do that.
well, there might be, but I'm not convinced there is. And um, uh, that it's like I've heard Gordon say. I've heard Gordon basically say the same thing as what I'm saying. He said, "I don't know if there's this DTC account. What do I care? We can issue fresh money just with our signature anyway, right? So
Mm.
you know." I mean, the way I look at it, you can pay a bill by writing a new instrument like a promissory note or an A for V. What does it matter if there's this fund or this account somewhere, which I'm not convinced there is anyway. But why do we don't even need that? We can issue fresh money with our signature. So that's the way I look at it as well.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting, man.
Yeah, because
Huh.
I don't know what the proof is that there's this account that exists for us. I don't know. I don't think it makes sense. I think it's based on a bunch of presumptions, and I don't think it makes sense.
But it kind of doesn't even matter though,
Yeah.
because what you're saying is like if you put your signature on it anyway, that's right there in essence is creating the value.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Because I can't understand why we need to do this great long chain of events, like put the birth certificate in, and then do this bond and a birth certificate bond and a set off bond, and then an A for V, and then a deposit to Treasury, and then a money order, and it's like this whole bunch of stuff, and there's no substance to any of it. It's only a bunch of paperwork with signatures on it. So why bother with all that? Why not just cut straight to the chase and just issue a fresh promissory note to pay it to? That's what I don't understand.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, man. I mean, whatever the process is, like I'm trying to understand just the simplest. What's the simplest way, to deal with whatever situation you have?
Yeah.
You know, let's simplify it, man. Like,
Yeah.
like let's just take the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Easy.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. And so I haven't tried it yet, but when I do my next thing, I'm just gonna issue a promissory note because in England we got this judgment from the Court of Appeal where the judge said, you know, we've ruled that a promissory note or a bill of exchange is to be treated as cash, right? So when I next do an experiment, I'm just gonna send them a promissory note. That's cash. I mean, why bother with the whole A for V? It's just like I don't get it. I don't see the need.
Hmm. Okay, here's another thing, man. Let me ask you this. Like, Gordon will, classically say, there's the four doors that you could walk through, like in any situation. You could just straight up accept, you can conditionally accept,
Hmm.
you could just, not respond, or you could argue. The latter two putting you in dishonor, the first two keeping you in honor.
Yeah.
But what about just straight up denial, or just like no contract? Now this seems to kind of be like what Dean is talking about. So it seems like that's almost synonymous with accepting. You don't just, I mean, not every single offer you're going to just straight up accept, and it's okay for you to just say no. This offer's no good. no dice, no contract. So I mean,
Yeah.
I've been kind of playing with that in my mind. Like,
Yeah.
how does that work? What can you say about that?
Yeah, I agree. But firstly, Dean is so funny. I think you'll
He
agree.
is.
He is so funny. I mean, he can't go one sentence without saying "fuck, bollocks, bastard, fuck you." Sort of kind of. So he speaks like a truck driver, but it's really refreshing. I mean, I really enjoy. He seems to be able to say in 10 words what some people need to use 1,000 words to say, kind of thing.
Yeah,
He just kind of cuts straight to the point, no nonsense, which is really refreshing.
yeah,
And yeah, I gotta be honest. When it comes to, I think people get carried away with the idea of remaining in honor, right? I
uh,
think I think people get a bit woolly and a bit soft about it, and I think people just take it too far. I don't think you have to be a pussy to remain in honor, right?
sure, yeah.
I think some people take it too far. It's like conditionally accepting everything. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of agree with what you just said. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with challenging. I think that's what you said, right?
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what you're saying. I think that there's like, there's kind of a middle road that we might want to be shooting for. Like, obviously, you can't be too much of a pussy. You can't be too nice about it
Yeah.
and just be, wishy-washy and bending over about it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like, it's probably not, necessarily effective to be always totally in your face and completely inflammatory. And, I mean, like, probably a way to, to just walk that middle path and be diplomatic about it,
Yeah.
basically.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you, Nate. And you know, I kind of
But still be firm.
yeah, I agree with what you're saying, and you know, I think it is an intellectual boxing match. I think it is this stuff is a I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure what I'm trying to say really, but sometimes I think people are sometimes just too timid, and like we just said, too much of a pussy with the whole remaining in honor thing. It's like
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just like I'm kind of lost for words right now, but I've got a friend that's kind of like that. He's really philosophical about it, and he says, you just need to accept everything, accept everything. But what do? You just accept everything all the way to jail? Like, there's something to be said for sticking up for yourself as well, and kind of fighting back, so to speak. So, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what I'm trying to say, but I pretty much agree with what you said.
Hmm. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Huh. So the A for V thing, though, like basically you're saying if someone was going to do that, one viable way of doing it is just straight up doing an A for V, without doing any other preliminary paperwork to set, like to go send the bond off to the Treasury or any of that sort of stuff.
Apparently so. Apparently all that's needed, and I'm not speaking from experience, but from all the people I've listened to and spoke to, and they've done it and it's worked. Yeah, you can just do an A for V, and you don't need to do a bond or anything else. You can just A for V and send it to, I don't
And
know.
like you'll use your social security number as the number that's on it. Say just bill this.
Apparently so. Apparently so.
Yeah.
And it appears that the most simple method is the Doug Riddle method, which are you familiar with what Doug teaches?
Dude, I know I need to look into his stuff. I've seen that you've referenced him a bunch, and I
Yeah.
guess you've interviewed him, right?
Yeah, I've interviewed him, and I think many people, and he just keeps it dead simple. He just A for visa thing and sends it straight to the IRS, and it works.
Mhm.
Nothing else, no contract, no administrative process, no notice of default, and notary certificates of service, none of that. He just sends it straight to IRS. And Sandra did it, and it worked. She A for V $89,000 for a friend of hers, and it worked.
That's the gal that's like she's down in Cali,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and I
Like
think.
She does the Gordon Hall thing and
Yeah,
everything.
and I think
Yeah.
Spencer has done the same thing. So many people have done it like that, without a bond, without sending the birth certificate in, without a UCC one. There's many people that have just done a simple A for V, nothing else.
Huh.
Yeah, but
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I talked to a guy this weekend at a workshop that he just did his first one, and that's how he did it, like totally simple.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but I will say this, right? I'm going to make a bold statement.
Okay.
Anybody, anybody who uses the words accepted for value does not understand negotiable instruments.
Yeah, give us a little bit more about this.
I,
Tell me why you're saying that.
I flat out do not agree that the words for value are necessary.
You
And
could just write accepted.
yes, that's what I contend. And listen, I, that's what I contend, right? Anybody the words for value are not necessary. They don't do anything. That's what I contend. And so
Hmm.
I don't know why anybody would write accepted for value, except that they're just copying what they've heard somebody else say and they don't really understand what they're writing. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't work. I don't think the words for value are going to cause a problem. They're not going to harm the process, but they don't do anything. People think it
So,
mean. Yeah, go on. Go
so
ahead.
you think that by the same logic that it wouldn't harm anything if you did your A for V and you just wrote accepted. You just didn't write for value.
That's what I think. I cannot. The words for value don't make any sense. I mean, what for value? What people make up all sorts of explanations about what those words mean, but it's all in their imagination. I, you know, the words don't make sense, and I could kind of go into it, and I could shout and scream for 20 minutes about why those words aren't needed, but I'm just putting it out there that all that's needed is
hmm
the word accepted.
hmm Hmm. Interesting, man. So yeah. So if you do that process again, if you end up doing another A for V, that's how you're gonna try it. You think, just straight up
Yeah, I
accept
don't
it.
acknowledge. I really don't acknowledge the phrase A for V. People are just repeating what they heard somebody else say. Somebody says A accepted for value, and then the next person just repeats the phrase, and nobody understands what it means. And I don't think there's any significance to the words for value. The important bit is the acceptance.
hmm
Yeah.
Hmm. That's a fascinating perspective. Yeah, I've heard you say this. I haven't heard anyone else say that.
Well, it's crazy, and I've been banging my head against a wall on this for 2 years, and I thought it was
hmm
because, I came to the conclusion maybe I'm just stupid, maybe I just don't understand something and everybody else understands it, and then after a while it started to dawn on me that nobody could explain it, right?
hmm
And people say, oh yeah, you need to read Modern Money Mechanics. You need to read that book called What Does Accepted for Value Mean? And I read those, and they didn't make sense. I read that book, and that didn't make sense either. There was a bunch of things that don't make sense in there, and so I've come to the conclusion that it's me that's right. Yeah. So.
Nice, man. Huh? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting, man.
And I've,
Um,
as you know, I've done videos on that on my channel. I've gone into some specific explanation as to why I arrived at that. So if people are interested, they can go and look at my videos.
Sure, man. So let's just put that out there. Should this get up on the internet and people are checking this out, but they're not really familiar with you,
Yeah.
where can they go to check your work out?
Oh, just benlowry.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we could put the link on the video or something that went on YouTube. So.
hmm
Yeah.
Cool, man. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
dude, that's kind of some of the main things that I really wanted to talk with you about today. Um, I I definitely will keep watching your channel, and I always look forward to the new interviews and everything. And dude, right on, man. Like you're doing a great job, and I know it's been helpful to me. And I see all the different the numbers of folks that are checking your videos out, and I'm sure it's being inspirational and informative to a ton of other folks out there. So good on you, man.
Well, thank you, Nate. I'm just trying to do my bit, and I'm having fun with it. We're all trying to learn, together. We're all kind of going in the same direction, aren't we? So, you know, we're all just trying to help each other out and eventually get to that place where, you know, we're not under the thumb of the government kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Cool, man.
yeah.
Well, dude, I'll keep you informed with some of this other stuff I've been talking with you about, some of the personal projects that have been going on and everything.
Cool.
And yeah, maybe we can talk again sometime.
Sure, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Nate. It's
Cool.
great to talk to you, and I hope everything, you know, goes well with the, you know, the UFO kind of ranch and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
interesting place, man. And yeah, we're having some good stuff going on here for sure.
great, cool. Yeah, I'll check it out. I haven't been on the website for a while, so I'll take a look and see what's going on there.
Cool, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Are you familiar with George Kavasilis?
No, I'm not.
Okay. I'll see if maybe I can get you a link to. We just did this workshop with this guy. He's from Australia, and he's got a very unique perspective. And like he's a contactee, he's an abductee. He's journeyed through through the dimensions and everything with his consciousness. And
Yeah,
I don't know. He talks about a lot of interesting stuff, and it has kind of a take that I haven't heard too many people voice.
yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, he was just here. Yeah, I think I know you look into some of that sort of realm of information. You probably get a kick out of checking him out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I love that type of stuff. By the way, if this is going to be on the internet, just quickly tell people about, you know, what you guys do over there. Just give people a quick kind of heads up about what it is.
um, yeah, so I mean, the place is called East Eddy Ranch. It stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. It is it's the private residence of James Gilliland, he's a writer, a speaker, a contactee, and so yeah, when we do a lot of different stuff here, we hold space to facilitate exploration for many people. I mean, it's an internationally known UFO hotspot and a sanctuary. And so people come from who you never know. Any given week, we might have people from Australia or the UK or Canada or South America or wherever
Mm,
from the States come here to most people know about it as a place that people regularly see sightings.
mm.
And we do Skywatch on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and pretty much any given weekend you're gonna if you spend some time out in the field at night, you're probably going to experience and see something. And so, I mean, we do a lot of other stuff like, we do healing modalities here, and there's a lot of other stuff that's going on besides just the UFO stuff, but that's kind of what we're probably most well known for, as a place to come and explore, one's multidimensional nature of oneself and the multidimensional nature of the universe. Or
Awesome.
multiverse, or whatever term resonates with you.
Yeah, and it's a pretty famous place, isn't it? I saw the documentary where, you know, the BBC did it, didn't they? Where
Oh yeah, Danny Dyer. Yeah,
Danny Dyer came over there. Yeah, I saw that a couple of years ago. So it's really cool what you guys are doing.
yeah, and I think they did a pretty good job with that for something that was kind of on mainstream TV. Like that one kind of stands out to me as one of the pieces that was handled the best, at least.
Yeah,
Uh,
came across really well, like really well. Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, and that dude, he's like a pretty big actor over there and everything, huh?
Yeah, yeah, he's pretty well known. So, and he, you know, he's got a lot of street cred. You know, obviously he's kind of pretty down to earth type of guy. You know, that most people can relate to. You know, most ordinary folk. So to have someone like him introducing the idea, you know, and showing people UFOs on the telly is a pretty good thing for the mainstream, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's been fun talking to you, Nate.
Yeah, man. Likewise. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me, dude.
It's my pleasure. This is the first time that anybody's actually wanted to listen to anything I've got to say for a change, so that's cool.
Well, yeah, like I said, I feel like you got a unique perspective after
Yeah.
talking to so many heads.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah, cool.
yeah.
All right.
Cool, man. Well, until next time then.
Yeah, until next time. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
All right.
See
Peace.
ya.